was alone that the avalanche let go its hold. The Margolins were one of her families. They should have been safe. But everything she was, all the wealth, honor, and authority at her command, had proved just so many delusions of usefulness, inadequate to keep one tiny human being from death. She'd been called, and she had come. But before she could summon a doctor, while she'd stood in that dim room with its scrubbed floor and the threadbare, neatly tucked bedclothes, the wise, infant gray eyes held hers, and the child stopped breathing. Just stopped. The death of a badly wounded man was one thing. God knew she'd seen enough of that during the war. This was another matter altogether. She looked up in horror at the survivors, bright little Molly, pressed against her mother's side, thumb in mouth, Tom and Jims kicking their heels in embarrassment on the bench, their once pretty mother, Mary, at 25 a widow with lank gray hair and rotting teeth, seated dry-eyed on the room's other chair with the toddler. They'd named the infant Christopher, and because his family could not afford sentiment, he'd gone to the earth without his shroud. Her teeth chattered against the glass. Her fingers refused to carry the silver lighter to the cigarette. She placed her hands on her knees, but the slow, calming breaths refused to come, and sounded more like gasps. It was exhaustion, as much as anything, that broke her. The bone-deep fatigue that came from too many 14-hour days followed by too many sleepless nights. Rage had burned to ash long ago. Despair was her daily bread. But the bitter cold and the disgusting surroundings and the glimpse into those newborn eyes, heaped as they were on top of grinding worry and the devastating failure of love, made the world flare and consume itself. In the bleak, scorched hopelessness that followed, she broke. She bent forward over her knees, her arms curled around the back of her head as if to protect herself from a beating, and she wept. There was just no end to London's store of graying 25-year-olds, no end to their damaged men, their malnourished children, their dying infants. Huddled before the fireplace, she had a hallucinatory vision of the baby Christopher as a grain of sand, tumbling with 10,000 other grains through an hourglass. The sheer futility of trying to catch all those grains before they fell overwhelmed her. The sobs came so hard, she gagged on them. But eventually, every avalanche must reach its plateau and settle. The sobs slowed. The choking noises trickled into hiccups. She sat upright in the chair, clawed the hair from her swollen eyes, and stretched out a steady hand for her drink. When the cigarette was lit, she stared into the heedless coals, thinking about lives pouring unstopped through an hourglass. The poor will be with you, always. Wasn't that the bitter, cold truth? Even if she were given the keys to the Hurley coffers, to empty everything, paintings and jewels, houses and land, into the slums of London, it would disappear without a trace. The Hurley legacy could be reduced to the bones, and still poor mothers would strip the dead to warm the living. Yes, money narrowed the neck of the glass, slowing the stream. Money bought medicine, nutrition, warmth, education, giving the poor a chance against the downward pull of the sand. But it was so slow, so terribly, agonizingly slow. What the world needed was a cork to stop the flow completely. Some invention, some idea, some electrifying event that would not only galvanize the working classes, but would stick in the minds of the powerful like a stone in the neck of the hourglass, to cut off the flow of poor. Perhaps if she stayed here a while, alone and resting in the quiet, she might think of something. 2. March, 1926. The small man stood on the hilltop, naked beneath the gibbous moon, welcoming the air with his body. His clothing lay neatly